We have covered how transaction management foundation systems work, what we call ERPs in general, and on top of these, we can build other systems both to relate to our suppliers and to our customers, and also specific systems for managing our internal supply chain processes to manage them all, which is what we are going to see now. In this image here, we have the internal processes and another column for supplier relationship and customers relationship, but we are going to focus here. And we can go from top to bottom. We can manage our strategy, and we can define how we are going to do in the long term, and we can go all the way down to the operational activities. So when it comes to the let's say strategic decisions, to planning, we can have demand planning processes and supply planning processes. Okay, and this is what we call supply chain management system related to planning. Okay, this has to do with the midterm. For example, for the next year, we are going to have some forecasts for our products or the family of products we work with, and we are going to plan how we are going to get those products, where we are going to manufacture them, how we are going to distribute them, but in an aggregated manner. So we are not going to go into the details where we're using some vehicle or a particular train or so on. Okay, we are just having the rough numbers for, let's say, the following year. Okay, and that has to do both with the demand, so how we are going to supply our customers with what they need, and how we are going to get what we need for doing that, how we are going to get our materials, our components from our suppliers. Okay, and if you would go to the lower level, we have these fulfillment and field service functionalities, which allow us, or which are assisted by systems related to execution. By execution, what we mean is the carrying all the operations that are involved in actually getting the products delivered to our customers, or getting the materials received and stored within our manufacturing facilities or within our warehouses. So we are managing the details of the flow, or the flows of the products and the information across different facilities, so that everything goes smoothly. So the difference between planning and execution has to do with the level of the detail and the horizon we are dealing with. Here we're working in the midterm, as I said, several months ahead of us, and here we're working in the very short term, the very detailed information about how we are going to manage operations, so that everything goes as planned previously with the corresponding detail. So there are systems specific for each of these activities. Strategic planning doesn't have a system per se, although there are tools out there you can use to define some aspects of your strategic planning, such as your network design, so where you are going to locate your facilities, what are their capacities, and so on. It's something you also can assist by means of systems, mainly operations research, and other tools that you can use for that. Okay, but we are going to focus here on these two levels, which is planning and execution. In this slide, we highlight the fact that these systems are interrelated by means of the ERP, because we need to gather information from the execution so that we can do the right planning, and the other way around. So information flows mainly top down, because if we are going to execute our plans, we need to know what our plans were. For example, if we plan to produce some amount of products in a given month in a given facility, we need to get to the lowest level of detail, so that we need to know when to produce each article, each item, each batch, whatever we're producing, at the very detailed level, such as daily or hourly, but that has to be consistent with the plan we had done some time before. And it can also work bottom up, because as execution is done, there might be some deviations that require our plan to change. So we have to replan, and for that we need to take into account how things were in the actual execution, and we need to take into account those possible deviations. So in planning, in supply chain planning systems, the objective is to establish at a high level the values or the guidelines for procurement, production, and distribution. It's to plan mainly these activities. And the idea is to be able to reduce the operating cost. For example, taking care of inventories, but not only, because we also have manufacturing costs and purchasing costs and so on. But we need to focus on efficiency so that according to this plan, when we go to the execution level, we can execute the plan with a high level of efficiency. As in any activity that entails dealing with data that we need to process, we need to be very careful with the quality of the data. If we have any application that gets information about our demand, our suppliers and their capacity for supplying what we need and so on, costs, if that information is not reliable, what we can get out of our system is the same quality. This is garbage, if this is what we are feeding our application with, but with the difference that it takes some time to get it processed and it's more expensive than the original data, and definitely it is useless. And there are two typical applications we have when planning. One is a demand forecasting, okay, in the long run or in the mid run, let's say, and planning or related to materials and manufacturing, which is what we described later as the MRP. In these slides, we have a series of processes that go from the top level decisions we can make, which is supply chain network design. This is a strategy. That's why the color is this dark blue, and we can go down to the lowest level of decision making, which means scheduling or planning the transportation in the very detailed, like what vehicle I'm going to use, where are the times for the routes and so on, and how I'm going to fulfill my demand. This ATP stands for available to promise, which is the way for me to take into account what articles or what items I actually have to meet the demand of my customers. Okay, and in between, what we have is the planning phases. Okay, when it comes to supply, we have the network balancing and the master planning. So we have all the calculations we have to do so that we can satisfy our customers with what they need, and we can purchase what we need in the midterm. And the same goes for demand. Okay, and we can go to a lower level of detail according to that information. We could go to planning not at this level of detail, but planning in a more aggregated manner our production and the materials we need to purchase. Okay, so we're talking about the master production schedule here. We are talking about the MRP down here, which is similar to the slide I showed before. And these processes relate to both purchase and sell, and producing and distributing in between. So we purchase, we produce, we have to distribute it, and eventually we sell. So this kind of analysis that goes from strategy down to operations has to do with all these processes, as we can see in this slide. And when it comes to execution, the objective is to automate operations and processes, and it's not mentioned there, but the idea is, of course, to be efficient anyway. So we have planned so that when we come to this level and we need to decide how we are going to operate in detail, we can be as much efficient as we can. And there are two typical applications, which are warehouse management systems, related to, of course, how to manage facilities where we store things, warehouses, and transportation management systems, which are the systems related to managing the transportation. Both of those related to the daily basis operations we have to perform, both when it comes to warehouses and when it comes to the fleets we use for distributing our products or to getting the materials we need into our facilities. And that is what we are going to see in the following videos.